Hello everybody, my name is Christian, and today we are going to be talking about what characters in Honkai Star Rail I think should be buffed next. Sorry, you'll have to excuse my voice a little bit, I don't know what's going on. It was really hot, then I turned up the AC and it was really cold, and yeah, I just think I'm dying personally, so that's kind of a skill issue on my part. Anyway, but yeah, so today we are going to be talking about a few characters who I think have the potential to be the next buffed characters, like Silverwolf Blade, Jingliu, and Kafka. Because there are a lot of characters who really don't excel in the modern game at all. Or there's characters who still have fine designs, but I think at this point they could stand to be a little more modernized. Like, they could use with just a little enhancement somewhere in their kit to just make them a bit more ideal for their current team scenarios. With all that said, let's get into it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing down below. Over 90% of my audience isn't, and it would be greatly appreciated. On top of this, we now have YouTube memberships with tons of fun perks like early and bonus videos for those interested. Alright, back to the video. The first character on my list, and I went and asked my Discord about this. I wanted to see who people kind of thought needed buffs the most. The most resounding answers was Dan Heng and Bybiter Lune and Jing Yuan. So, let's start with Jing Yuan. The problem with Jing Yuan is almost entirely the fact that A, his multipliers are kinda... they're not the absolute best. And then the other problem is the reliance on Lightning Lord, and if you don't have Sunday, the Lightning Lord sucks. The Lightning Lord will just not get the action off a lot. You're kind of just hoping and praying that it works out in a way that benefits you. And most importantly, the damage is just very mid compared to if you have Sunday to really increase that damage potential by, 80%? The character has such a unique concept with the Lightning Lord hits. Like, it is a very cool concept that all of his attacks can increase the Lightning Lord's hits per action, and as a result, it'll get faster so that its attack can actually go off. So I think keeping that whole thing is very important to the identity of Jing Yuan. Also, trying to switch all of that for buffs would be unbelievably difficult, so we're just gonna, we gotta work with what we got here. I think the main thing you could do with Jing Yuan, you have to make the Lightning Lord just a bit more reliable, I feel like. I feel like that's the biggest problem overall, is that the Lightning Lord just is very rough for some players to rely on. And Sunday fixes that problem, but that's also linked entirely to a character being good, rather than the actual character you have just functioning better. Actually figuring out the buffs that would work for this character, I will fully admit, kinda difficult. Definitely kinda difficult. I do also think maybe switching around the mechanics of Lightning Lord so that they count more as a memo sprite or summon to really benefit from certain other planars would be cool, because I don't think they get the full effect of the Banana Amusement Wonder Park set, whatever the hell it is. I'm not sure if they get the full effect of that, but it would be incredibly helpful for them. I also think making it so that the Lightning Lord does not get frickin' CC'd when Jing Yuan is CC'd would be nice. I think that'd be really helpful to make them function in that form more as a memo sprite. Even if you're not going to give them HP or whatever, because that's going to be a big change. I feel like you're a god. Why are you getting CC'd by like a fucking fire-breathing fish? That sucks. Overall, the character just... I don't know. The character just struggles a lot without that ideal character backing them up. And I understand that can be a lot of characters as well. But either way, this just needs to be improved in some way, shape, or form. Also, we need to take a look at the Eidolons. Jing Yuan has maybe some of the worst Eidolons I have ever seen on a character. We talk about it in the Eidolon videos that I've been making, but Jingyuen's Eidolons are genuinely horrible. They are just not good. Every single one of them is outclassed by just owning Sunday. And yeah, that might be an unfair comparison. I don't care. None of them do anything that is substantial for the character. But yeah. The only other thing I would point out that could be an easy switch, one of Jingyuen's traces, War Marshal. After using skill, crit rate increases by 10% for 2 turns. That is one of those traces that could very easily be switched to be way more helpful. I think the other 2 major traces are completely fine, because one of them increases the Lightning Lord's crit damage if they have 6 or more actions. That's pretty good. And one of them gives Jingyuen 15 energy at the start of a battle. If you wanted to change that to maybe like, oh, and he also regenerates 5 energy per turn, that'd be cool. I think that'd be really helpful, because then, once again, it just increases your rotations, it increases your overall damage output. But yeah, that's mostly fine. That other one, War Marshal, is just not very good. I feel like we need to change that to something that is going to benefit Jingyuen's personal damage, or is going to make the Lightning Lord do more damage or be more reliable. Anyway, yeah. So that's the first character out of the way now. I really do think there's a world where Jingyuen does get buffed. Maybe not super soon, but I can see it because Jingyuen is very clearly one of the favorite children of Hoyoverse, and I feel like they cannot leave him out to dry for that long, especially since that Sunday buff of having Sunday with Jingyuen, that's going to wear off pretty soon, since Sunday is becoming higher and higher demand for a lot of other characters. Eventually, that bonus is going to wear off, so then what are we going to do about Jingyuen? Well, now we buff him, and then the people love him again. They have a whole plan laid out, I'm pretty sure. It's just the Jingyuen appreciation wall. Either way, I think this one is pretty possible that he will get buffed at some point. So now we move on to our next Xianzhao boy, Dan Heng Imbibitor Lune. I will fully admit, this character is still pretty good for the most part. The character definitely has a lot of power behind what he does. He can hit multiple enemies, which is always going to be pretty helpful, pretty unique. And he has a very, very interesting concept behind him, even if it is kind of hard to work with to a certain degree, because you need very, very specific characters to accomplish his goal. But all that considered, he is still a very, very interesting character with a lot of potential. At this point in time, I think the biggest problem with Dan Heng Imbibitor Lune is simply the fact that his multipliers are just a little outdated. His multipliers are kind of outdated. He doesn't have access to any res pen in his kit naturally. He has a trace that increases the chance to resist crowd control debuffs. Those are never helpful, and I stand on that. I really, really don't like those on characters. And one of his other traces is Jolt Tanu. This character's crit damage increases by 24% when dealing damage to enemy targets with imaginary weakness. You're telling me we can't just have made that like 10% res pen? Or we couldn't have made that, I don't know, anything else? Like maybe you regenerate an extra skill point every use of like ultimate, every use of the final enhanced basic attack? Like there's nothing else we could have done there? Just 24% crit damage with this very specific weakness? That's it? That's all we had? I don't like it. I really do not like it. Overall, this I feel like wouldn't be the absolute worst character to fix. You would need to take a look at the major traces again. The Eidolons overall are almost perfectly fine, I think. I don't really have a major complaint about any of the Eidolons besides maybe 6, but even then 6 is fine. It's really just his multipliers are a bit weaker. He doesn't have access to more scalable damage. He has no res pen. He has nothing that can really help him out that much more. And yeah, I just feel like being able to kind of help a bit more with skill points besides getting them off of his ultimate would be nice. And that's it. Because even his talent essentially gives him 10% more damage for every hit he lands from an attack. That's pretty good. And on your max enhanced basic attack, you're going to get the full 6 stacks of it, which is a 60% increase in your damage. Honestly, I think that that's pretty cool and not bad at all. Maybe if you wanted to have it last for more than one turn, or more than the end of his turn, maybe that's good, but overall, this character still has the potential to be really, really good. I feel like if we can just change some of those little things, the character will very easily go back into like a kind of tier 1, T0.5, like a relative top tier position rather than being kind of a high tier position. You wouldn't ever think that that's that much of a jump, but I promise you the difference between a good high tier and a top tier of any variety is always a lot more than what you would think. Your investment goes down, your ability to just win goes up, and the absolute bullshit you need to go through with characters, rotations, all these random things, it becomes a lot easier with your character just naturally being better. Alright, well, those two were definitely the two most requested characters by far for me to talk about, so I've got those knocked out. There are a few more characters we could talk about, but I'm not going to go into details on all of them, so I'm just going to list out overall the ones I have left. We have Dr. Ratio, we have Sparkle, we have Sela, and we have Argenti. These four characters were the main ones left over that people really wanted to see buffed in some way, shape, or form. The one I agree with the absolute most is definitely Sparkle. And here's the thing, Sparkle is a 2.0 character, and she is still very good in a vacuum. My problem with Sparkle is simply the fact that she has almost no purpose right now. I've stated this before. Sparkle does not have a place in the game currently. I got yelled at a lot for this the other day. Sunday with his signature light cone is better for Dan Heng Imbibitor Lune than Sparkle is, and that was her main belonging place. So now that we've just taken that away with Sunday, who is almost better in every single way besides raw damage increase, and even then, he offers a lot to make up for it, especially with teams who require a lot of energy because he has that ability. So we've just completely taken away Sparkle's usability there, and anywhere else you could use an action advancer, Sparkle only has a 50% action advance, which can cause problems. You are not getting the same level as a Bronya. You're not getting the same level as a Sunday. You're not getting the same level as fucking RMC. That's crazy. The character offers a great damage boost. She has amazing Eidolons, and she gives even more damage with her ult, with her signature, but she just doesn't do a lot. At least not in today's current game. There are too many action advancing options, and she does not stack up as one of the better ones. So how do we fix her? It's hard to say, but I'm gonna be honest, why is she the only action advancer who doesn't give 100%? I really do think just by switching that one specific thing, we can solve a lot of problems with the character. Or even then, it just means she's on par in terms of action advance with everyone else, and that is enough to make the character good again. Whatever else they want to change about the character, if they do decide to buff her, whatever else works. But that specific thing, I've always thought that that was weird, that we just didn't give her a 100% action advance. And I feel like that is the easiest thing to change to try and help the character. Alright, that one's knocked out. So, I'm gonna be honest, Dr. Ratio, just make him more like Fei Xiao, give him better multipliers, maybe increase his reliance on debuff by 1. And yeah, that one I'm not really too interested in talking about, because either way, we still have a better version of him in Fei Xiao. So if they really want to improve him to get him up to a higher level, we gotta do something with that first. And at the end of the day, single target is always going to have more niche uses because the game is always going to fluctuate between having a lot of targets or maybe a few targets But either way, it's very hard to find traditional single-target fights in this game. Yeah, that one's just rough. Maybe they'll give him something else. Maybe they'll just really crank up his damage. But overall, yeah, Dr. Ratio is just in a weird spot that I also don't think is really worth investing in for fixing. Oh, actually, while we're on the topic of Dr. Ratio, I forgot to mention this. Topaz is another character a lot of people wanted to see buffed. This one kind of makes sense because Topaz has very, very solid replacements in Moz and March 7th Hunt. She is still really good in the teams that she is good in, but she simply does not hold the same weight as she used to when you can just invest in like a Cypher, and there you go. You've got another perfect character who's capable of doing what Topaz can kind of do for those same teams. And even then, Cypher has more usability across the board because of just the nature of her character. For Topaz specifically, I think we really just need to take a look at kind of her sources of damage and what she gets out of her abilities, and just kind of crank it up a decent bit. Her constant follow-up attacks with Numby, I don't think those are really a problem. She has a good way to increase damage for the team. She can find ways to restore more energy for herself. She's a fine character overall. It's just, she's older. That's always the issue, is that she's older, and we have Tribby and Cypher now. That is the biggest problem with Topaz, is that Tribby and Cypher exist. So if you want to take those slots, you need to bring something excessive to the table. Topaz brings a lot to the table, but nothing that is going to be out of this world at this point. I would love to see something like giving Numby higher damage multipliers specifically. So Topaz will still stay the same, but then the follow-up attacks are going to get rewarded more as a result of just the character existing. I think that'd be really cool. I would love to see that. Outside of that, yeah. It is almost always just higher multipliers with these characters. Or just changing a trace so that their damage can be significantly increased by just accomplishing what you're meant to accomplish. That's always going to be the case with these characters. Alright, the last one I want to talk about today, none other than Seele. So, we have one problem with this character. Half the community wants her buffed, and half the community doesn't think she needs it. And that sounds insane because almost every person I know, or some of you know, probably thinks Seele needs a buff. The problem is this highly devoted player base for Seele. They continuously go out of their way to prove that the character is still good, the character can still excel. And it's always something like, I still managed to zero cycle the current MOC boss, so I think the character's perfectly fine. And Seele accomplishing these things is good, but I think this is also where we get into the issue of a buff. Because Seele, for a lot of these players, can still perform well at the highest levels of play. You need hyper investment, you need the most specific playstyle known to man, but you're still winning technically. So how in God's name do you balance a character to exclusively raise their floor without really changing their ceiling? Or do you just change the ceiling and the floor to both be better, and now maybe you've gone too far? It's a very interesting spot to be in, and a lot of people tend to defend Seele, and I get yelled at a lot, and I'm like, I really couldn't care less. I don't like the character, I don't think she's good or in a good position, but still, results are results, and you can't argue with those. So now it's a matter of, I still think the character needs buffs, because a character that is only accessible to a 0.1% of the player base is not good. That's not fun, that's not great design in the slightest. A lot of people want to play this game to have fun with their certain characters. But now, we're eliminating that by putting, a 34 effective substat, hard cap on that? To have fun with the character? That's weird. That's weird, that's not good. This is the hardest character to actually figure out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they take forever to actually buff her, because she still sees these play rates. Not even play rates, but she still sees play. That's the issue. I don't know what to do with this character. Because then you say, oh, we'll make Resurgence more likely to trigger, make it easier conditions to accomplish. But then, God, what are we gonna do with these maniacs who spend all this time making the perfect Zila? What are they gonna do to MOC? That is horrifying to think about. I think the super competitive players have started getting into my head with all this bullshit, quite frankly, so... yeah, Zila is just such a hard character to talk about. I can't really do it, I'm gonna be honest, because I feel like no matter what I say, I'm going to get in trouble. So, she's on the list. I do think she should be buffed at some point, but if she is one of the later characters to be buffed, I would not be surprised at this point. Alright, so we're gonna wrap up now. Just as a sort of in review, the main characters I want to see buffed, besides just Standard Banner, I would love to see Standard Banner buffed. I think the main characters I would like to see buffed, I want to see Sparkle buffed, and I would like to see Jing Yuan buffed. These are both good characters who have kind of lost a bit of their role to newer ones, and while that will still be the case even with buffs, I do think seeing a little resurgence for both of them, just to kind of get more up to the competition, would be a lot of fun, and I feel like players would really appreciate it, as these two are also very big fan favorites. Alright, well, I hope you all enjoyed. This was a bit longer than I thought it would be. I just checked my recording, and I'm at like 45 minutes, so that's, yeah, that's rough. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who would you like to see buffed? Also, I'm realizing in this outro that I forgot to talk about Luocha. God damn it. Okay, oh well, I guess. But yeah, we have more videos coming out soon, so I hope to see you guys then. Bye-bye.